a healthy balance of your divine feminine and your divine masculine requires a whole person. So that your inner child is alive and well, and you are your emotional adult. So that means you're using your prefrontal cortex. And like the jaguar who protects life in the Amazon, so do those of us who are part of this lovely order of Melchizedek, is the one that is in focus today. So for my 5D mystics, functional adults. And there's a reason, we're going to get into that, for why I chose to focus on that order as a 5D mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, but attachment trauma informed. Here's where the prefrontal cortex is how any one of us who's emotionally mature, divine feminine, my own divine masculine, I can use my left and right side of the brain, my verbal. Right is where nonverbal, but also everything that comes up from within me. So I have an emotional window of welcome, not a window of tolerance. Window of tolerance is for people who still have trauma charges, and that means their inner child not emotionally uncharged. Okay, so the authentic self of you is when you can speak to anyone within a equanimous tone. You're unflappable. It's called secure attachment, differentiation of the self. I'm a whole 3-year-old heart. Thank you, mother. No shame here. Compassion. Thank you, Jesus. So I am wanting to honor Jesus, but in a way of a 5D mystic. And in a way that any person who has moved beyond spirituality, because the Enlightenment Soul Age group is that, we bring sciences, the human elements, spiritual and spirituality. Come on in, Sadhguru. As Sadhguru shares, if you overflow with humanity, divinity has to descend, or something like that. So your humanity is only able to come forth when you have no charges coming up that create an adaptive child. So if your inner child is not building a snowman with humanity, which is why we have all these people who talk shit about humanity. Yes, so the human suffering and the sin part, but not with the ancient text. No, I'm bringing new stories as a person who's modern, which is what, as any person will know, what is it called? The ancient silverback people that are not able to have bilateral integration. Yes, so people who don't know how their implicit bias comes up, cultural, religious, gender, all of that, they're not able to say, oh, let me hold on to this and let me not project it. Now, those are called adaptive children. They're maladaptive as a grown-up because it's all charges from their child parts. The 0-1, attached, panicky, the 3-7, shame, submissive, the flight 11-12, the fight 14-15-16, and the freeze of all ages. Thank you to my lovely teacher and therapist, Sue Martin, for teaching me about that in my trauma course with Somatopia. Okay, so I'm not making up any shit, but you can better bet the ancient silverbacks don't notice that there's no demons that come out of you when you're doing yoga or when you're doing mindfulness meditation, but that actually, if you were attachment and trauma informed seriously, which I have been getting informed the past 2 years, you would know what comes up is not a demon. It's called charges. It's called trauma. It's called, there's a dysregulated and restorative embodied self for people who do not have their mammalian heritage and their birthright of the restorative embodied self. So your inner and outer well-being, it's all capacity for you to get into the hellhole for those who have trauma. And as my somatic teachers, they're also therapists, have shared, hey, calm down. Guess what? Since your body and your brain, humanly speaking, everybody's body and brain, humanly speaking, will lead them back home to their self without having to do else's journey, meaning they won't, and that's why they don't realize it's all about the whole 3-year-old heart of you. So Elsa is tragedy all over the place. Anytime you get any of those superhero kind of movies, which is what, it's a cartoon. I love the cartoons way better than all the other entertainment, which just perpetuate the shame cycle, inner critic, outer critic, rumination. They don't let you know that emotions really just last 90 seconds when you're using your present, though. Prefrontal cortex, it's integration of the brain. You have to have access to both and the authentic self. So I'm not going to whine with my 3. I don't want to do personal development. I don't believe in yoga being helpful. Okay, so let's put aside the people who won't be here, 3D, 4D. They're busy. They're busy with hell is coming to rain down on earth and spiritual warfare. And they're using all these words without knowing anything about their human being embodied brain. Okay, so let's go back to what I was trying to get to. The adaptive child makes it all about their self. It's an unbridled, like, let me have the floor, let me have the floor. The thing is, they don't know that they have low self-esteem, and that's why they're passive aggressive. They manipulate in a way that is not actually clear because they're doing it with all of the bias stuff. Okay. So, with all that being said, when you meet educated human beings and they're attachment trauma informed, as the somatic therapist inform us, don't worry, every person's body is leading them back to their restored embodied self. So all the shit will come up, and if they have a window of tolerance and they go to a good therapy, they'll get out of the inner critic, outer critic, the movies that make you look at drugs, alcohol, sex, food, and any other of those self-soothing mechanisms that if a person's self-aware is like, wait a minute, I'm not adding to my life. So I think I'm going to stop doing those. I'm going to enjoy. So do I enjoy doing something that's very different than me self-soothing because I get stressed? So that's something that anyone who wants to tell me they're smart, I'm going to say, do you know how to keep your health physical? If you do, as you age, you're going to want moderation. If you don't know moderation, then I'm going to say you're not smart, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable, because you're not able to look at yourself with equanimity and be like, wait a minute, I'm not doing things moderately. I think I should, try to back off on some. No, it's not about backing off. It's recognizing if you have a pattern, because that's the point. You will notice, my behavior keeps on bringing me to do things that don't bring me into happiness or enjoyment or fulfillment. And long story short, the human suffering part, when you're not securely attached, there's ways that you don't need to pathologize yourself. You can understand from a good therapist, again, your body can move into the restorative embodied self, but you are the one who either does the emotional lifting, as Patrick Tihan, childhood trauma survivor, presents, which people don't. They will not. So they do the compulsive activities and then they isolate, which means they just do it again and again. But the somatic therapist, they explained dysregulated, modulated, first need a safe environment. So there's a lot of equations. Let's go back to why I wanted to focus on our lovely order of Melchizedek. We bring balance of feminine, masculine energies. You have to be a whole person to be a balanced feminine and a balanced masculine. I'm a feminine with my own masculine, the divine masculine, the mind, the divine feminine, the body. Then I like to say the left is the masculine, the right is the feminine, because the right is where you're connected to your inner child, to your heart. If you don't have the right, which is what we don't, in fact, the bilateral integration, for it to be freely flowing means you're going to be unflappable. So you have conversations like a grown-up versus what we see. So let me skip all of that and just end with every person's brain is healing itself from trauma memory, but trauma charges, But if you use Cusco's attitude every time in the squirrels, well, there you go. So we have a couple of words that I wanted to look into. One, a demonic spirit. Evil spirits promote corruption, malice, and depravity in the world. I'm going to say there's a lot of people that are in seats that definitely don't get called this. And also Patrick McNamara. There's no demonic possession. There's a fear receptor in your brain that's acting wonky as your brain tries to heal itself from trauma. So again, disorganized attachment, dissociative identity disorder, very important. So when you're educated, there's no demons. There's people who need good therapists. And when you look at Michael Stone's scale, 1 to 22, evil, thank you, forensic criminologists, they all need a good therapist again. Discernment is the ability to support the world, our ability to view the world, and the people around us from a place of inner balance and detachment, yet with compassion and wisdom, which can only happen when you have your humanity, which means I know that every human is imperfect like me, and that sin and that human suffering was not meant to make people ashamed again and again and again of themselves, which is what we see. For those who don't know about how to actually do authority, reminds us that true authority, the frequency, is powerful, directed, and realized, yet receptive, wise, and loving. It is not wise or loving to have hatred in the forefront. So we have misanthropy, hatred, dislike, or distrust of humankind. We have misandry, hatred of men. Misogyny, hatred of women, and it involves sexism. And misogamist, a person who hates, avoids, or opposes marriages. So all of this hatred, I'm going to say that there's a very easy word called love, and also knowing how to support each other to get to resolve those adaptive children traumatic experiences, because as long as we don't support transgenerational and cultural trauma and we don't teach people how to be whole divine masculines and divine feminines, well, we're not really going to balance out energies or our humanity. And, we'll continue the conversation on the podcast. So tune in to the audio version on Spotify and other whatever platforms. There's like a gazillion. So Tune in for more. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in and send your questions.